Hey everyone, welcome to an NFL video. In this one, we are looking back at what happened for week 3 of the NFL season, what went right, what went wrong, taking a look at my cash game rankings, my cash game single entry lineup, and one of the winning lineups in one of my contests for GPPs. And then we can take a look at a little early preview of week 4, and then we can build a lineup from there, just a first look lineup and some first thoughts. And then I'll have a more detailed video coming out, which is my core plays video, which is what I did last week. So that'll be out after that. That'll have more statistics and stuff. This is kind of me just taking a first glance, seeing what pops off the page to me right away, and just first looks. Anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinno16. And if you'd like access to any of the extra content I post, all my rankings, projections, I mean, this is just a very generic part of my spreadsheet. I just list it very simple, my cash game rankings. I got projections on there, all the stats you need, all the data. It's color-coded. It's a lot more complex than this is. And projected ownership as well. So, anyway, let's get right into it. So let's just talk about the quarterback spot right now. So, Josh Allen was my number one guy in cash this week, and he kind of had his typical Josh Allen week of, right around 250 yards to the air, 40 yards on the ground, and a passing touchdown. Unfortunately, did not get in another rushing touchdown, which he did the first 2 weeks, or it could have even been a better day. But he didn't really go off by any means, but he definitely didn't sink any of your lineups, as he was right around on par with Kyler Murray in the scoring department, and Murray was a little bit higher owned, so really didn't hurt your lineups, didn't take you far in GPPs or anything, but he got the job done. Lamar Jackson was my next guy. He was 7K versus the Chiefs, and I'm going to chalk this one up as an L. He was my highest projected quarterback of the week, and honestly, he went back to his old ways through the air with a 50% completion percentage and 2 very lucky jump ball completions, which should have very well been picked or at least incomplete. He saved grace, though, with 40 yards on the ground and a touchdown, which is what he tends to do that. And other than that, though, I would say at his price tag, he hurt your lineups more than he helped you, as he probably costed you a high-end running back or wide receiver like Keenan Allen, which would have definitely sucked big time. Next guy I had was Dak Prescott. He was 6,500 versus Miami. He was one of the safer plays on the board, in my opinion. He wasn't priced all the way up, but he wasn't dirt cheap either. He was playing at home versus the Dolphins, which are pretty much rolling out a JV squad at this point. He didn't have a monster day, but he also didn't hurt your lineups, as he had 2 touchdowns through the air and added 1 on the ground as well. So he had a pretty solid outing, and he was only 6,500. It wasn't like he was 7,500 or something like that. So it didn't kill your lineups. And then Tom Brady, 6,600 versus a bad Jet squad right now. Just another similar play as Dak was, as I figured they'd both be able to toss 2 to 3 touchdowns and pick up about 250 yards. I realized they wouldn't be in a back-and-forth game script, which limited their upside, but he still picked up over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, so he was fine. He wasn't tremendous, but he did his job. Then Kyler Murray, he was 5,800 going up against a Panther squad. He wasn't too tough on quarterbacks. Both teams played at a pretty solid pace, so should be back and forth high scoring, which it was. He's kind of like Josh Allen with his rushing ability, which gives him a safer floor, and he pretty much did the same exact thing as Allen with 2 touchdowns through the air, but he also picked up 70 yards on the ground. Very slightly outscored Josh Allen, so that's what I have for quarterbacks. For running backs, I thought that went a lot better. He was my favorite play of the week. Dalvin Cook was 7,800. He ended up putting up 27 points, making him the 5th highest scoring running back. I was surprised not more people played Dalvin Cook. He was cheaper than the rest of the guys, like Zeke, McCaffrey, and Barkley, which Barkley got hurt, so you can't really say that. But yeah, Dalvin Cook, he balled out. I said his price is only going to go up more, which it did. He's in the 8K range finally, but he's an elite running back. People got to understand that. I'm sure you guys do by now, but he is fantastic. He looked great again. So Dalvin Cook ended up working out very well. Austin Eckler, he was 7,200, and he only put up 15 points, which was disappointing, but that really represents the safety with this guy, because he only had 9 carries for 36 yards, which obviously that sucks, but he still got 7 catches, which saved his day in PPR scoring, which is what Draftkings is. So it wasn't a tremendous play. Didn't kill your lineups, but it didn't take you far in GPPs, but these are really just my cash game rankings, so we're just looking for high floors here. And CMC, he was 8,700, and he was riding the struggle bus for a while, but he ended up breaking out that 75-yard touchdown, which put him over the 30-point mark for a typical CMC day, so he was fantastic. Marlon Mack at 5,800, he was fine for his price, but nothing special. He was iffy coming to the game, but ended up suiting up and finding the end zone, which led him to a 16-point day versus the Falcons. And Zeke, he was pretty much a big disappointment if you factor in his price. He was super expensive versus Miami. He had over 100 yards on the ground, which was nice, but he didn't find the end zone, and which, if you're paying that much for Zeke, you pretty much have to get him into the end zone, because if not, he's not going to pay off his salary. Pollard actually kind of ended up stealing the show, which he ended up outscoring him, and he got some extra run late in the game, so that did hurt Zeke's value. The wide receivers, though, it was pretty hit or miss at the wide receiver position for me. Although I will say, started off with a bang here with Keenan Allen. He was pretty much my mortal lock of the week last week. I pretty much hammered the Keenan Allen drum in every video last week, which ended up being very, very nice. He just has such a huge market share of this offense, and he offers you an insanely high floor and ceiling. Coming into week 3 at a 91% weighted opportunity share. He's the man there. He's an elite receiver. He's going to get a ton of targets. He just made a ton of sense. Ended up scoring 46 points. It was only outshined by Mike Evans, who had a big day. Manny Sanders, 4,800, major bust here. I liked him a lot heading into the week. The matchup wasn't great, but the price and talent drew me in. But, Alexander just absolutely shut him down. Just a bad day for Manny Sanders. Big L on that one. Aguilar, though, at 3,600, he was the chalk play of the week and ended up hitting big time with 24 points as he scored 2 touchdowns. That one touchdown was on like a double spin move kind of thing. It was a bad tackle. It was weird, but it was kind of cool. He was just so obvious with all the injuries at the wide receiver position for the Eagles. He was the cash game lock of the week, ended up working out. John Brown, 5,500. I kind of skipped Fitzgerald. Let's talk about Fitz first. 5,100. Wasn't anything exciting, but he got himself an early touchdown, which kind of saved his day. He didn't have any big plays at all, and he did fail to cross the 100-yard mark for the first time this season. But Larry Fitzgerald just keeps chugging away at double-digit point games. So one of the safer plays each week if he's going to be priced in this price range, which he is this week. He is priced up a little bit, but still fairly priced. Christian Kirk was also good. I originally had him in here, but I took him out for John Brown, unfortunately. So that's sad. But speaking of John Brown, 5,500. He was a bust. Going up against a very beatable Bengals secondary. Liked Allen a lot, so I had to double down with this top target, but it just did not happen this week, unfortunately. At the tight end position, it was okay. I originally had Andrews as my number 1, but the injury news about him not being full speed on his routes made me bump Ertz up to number 1 with his projected increase in targets from the missing pieces on that offense, Jeffrey, Djax. He did okay, but definitely was below expectations, only scoring 10 points at 5,700, so he hurt your lineups more than he helped. Mark Andrews, we kind of already talked about. The injury pretty much hampered him, but still, he was on the field and he just did not produce much whatsoever. Ingram, he was a monstrous hit on the back of that long 75-yard touchdown from Danny Dimes himself. Looks like this offense will be cooking a little bit with him at quarterback, much better than it was with Eli Manning. He looked pretty darn good out there. And the loss of Saquon Barkley does take a big hit to this offense, but you'd have to think that Evan Ingram even sees more work because there's not many guys on this offense that can do much now. It's Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard pretty much at this point. Then Golden Tate when he gets back. But Saquon Barkley's going to be missing quite a lot of time, about 4 to 8 weeks, and they're leaning towards the 8-week mark, so maybe after the bye week. That'd be a long time. Travis Kelce, he was really expensive, didn't really pay off if you played him. I mean, he is what he is. He's one of the safer plays each week, but if he doesn't score a touchdown, usually you're going to be pretty disappointed. Darren Waller, he was the nut play at tight end this week. He ended up scoring the most points. Had 30 points off 13 catches for 134 yards, got 14 targets. Waller's looking like a stud, and he's going to continue to get heavy usage on this offense. The days of him being 3,300 are by far gone. He is over 5K this week, so it was fun while it lasted, but he's going to be a fantastic play each week. But, I mean, I shouldn't say fantastic now because his price is up, but he's going to be, he's going to put up points each week. Defense, they are what they are. The Patriots and Cowboys did fine. Chargers disappointed, which, they were going against Houston, so it was tough. Buccaneers did fine. They gave up a ton of points versus, Danny Dimes, but ended up finishing with 8 points as they got, 3 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries, or was it 5 sacks? I have my notes written down somewhere. Let's see. It was, 5 sacks and 2 fumbles, so it kind of saved their day a little bit. And Steelers, they were my bottom of the barrel D of the week. And honestly, they did very well with 11 points at 2,300, forcing 5 turnovers. So that was my cash rankings for the week. I ended up going with my cash game lineup. I was on the left. It's pretty similar to the lineup it was like my final look lineup that I made on YouTube. As I always say, it's never a guarantee that I'm going to use it because things change. But the Andrews news made me pivot off of him because I just can't trust a guy with an injury, being hampered in a cash game because I'm going for safest floor possible in cash games. So I had to pivot. I originally had this same lineup, but it was Andrews and the Patriots defense. But I took out Andrews and I put in Zach Ertz because, with all the injuries on the Eagles, I don't like stacking in cash, but I did have a couple stacks here just because of the way the lineup worked out. So I had Ertz and Aguilar, but Aguilar was pretty much a stone cold lock. Ertz was going to see increased volume, so I pivoted to Ertz, and then I had to drop down to the Buccaneers defense, which I did not feel good about, and it was looking pretty rough for a while, but ended up getting those sacks and turnovers, so ended up working out. Like I said, I went Josh Allen at quarterback, which is my number one ranked cash game quarterback this week. Didn't smash, obviously, but Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler went with my two top RBs, like I had in my rankings, Keenan Allen, Larry Fitzgerald, and Sanders at my wide receiver spot, and then for tight end I went with Zach Ertz, Nelson Aguilar at flex, and then the Buccaneers defense, which I wasn't too happy about, but they ended up doing fine, which didn't hurt my lineup because the Patriots only scored, 11, Buccaneers got better value there. And then, so for the winning GPP lineup in one of my contests, so I know what you're thinking, this is not a very good lineup, but you guys got to make sure you're playing in the right contest. I know it's fun to play in the Millie Maker tournament, but it's really just a pipe dream. You got to get absolutely, I understand throwing maybe one lineup in there, but I would not put all your money in Millie Maker contests. If you go on DraftKings, you're going to see these single entry contests, but those single entry contests at the top are huge. I'm talking like thousands and thousands of people. If you guys scroll all the way down or just even search for them, you can find contests for like $50, $100 or $150, $200, whatever entry fee you want to use. You can find those, and they only have like 45 to 60 people. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you just enter a whole bunch of those, there's a much better chance of you winning serious money that week, because the winning lineup in this GPP was only 210 points. And if you look at the other contests, you have to score way high in the 200s to actually take down a tournament. And if you just enter multiple contests like this one, and you ended up having the best week, you're going to by far make more money than you would just throwing it in huge contests, because the more people there is, the higher the winning score is. As you can see, this one was only 210 points, and if you just spread all your entry fees into contests like this, you are going to be much more profitable. Like my cash game lineup was only scored like 168 points, but it still cashed in pretty much all my contests, so it was a good week for me. So that's just a tip for you guys if you guys aren't already doing that. Just something I like to do, and I've had much more success ever since I've been doing that. So just my little tip to you guys. If you guys want to play in the Millie Maker still, that's fine. I'm just telling you you have better chances of winning actual money in these kind of contests than having dreams of big money in the Millie Maker. But honestly, I don't understand throwing one lineup into the Millie Maker, because you never know. You don't want to miss out and hit the nuts and being a millionaire. So totally understand that. So let's get into, let's see. Let's find the Week 4 contest. I forgot what I was doing for a second. So once it loads, I will pull it up. Sunday slate. Just go into the Millie Maker here, and then let's do some first look thoughts in this as soon as I get this fixed. And let me make sure the players show up. And they don't. Okay. Just want to make sure you guys can see the name and everything. And let me make sure that everything's lined up. And it is. Doesn't look that pretty, but alright, we'll live with it. So let's just go down the list here. I'm not going to go over everything, because I really haven't done too much research into Week 4 yet. Kind of just do some early thoughts here. So Patrick Mahomes, I know this game has the highest over/under. It's 54 points, and Patrick Mahomes, he is a cheat code, and he's just absolute. Every single week, you're gonna get your 30 points pretty much. He's gonna throw the ball a ton. He's gonna throw 3 to 4 touchdowns, maybe even 5. He is what he is. He's got all the weapons in the world. I know he doesn't have Tyreek Hill, but it doesn't matter. He's got DeMarcus Robinson. He's got Tyreek Hill 2.0 and McCole Hardman. Travis Kelce, the best tight end in the league. He's got Shady McCoy out of the backfield. There's nothing not to like about Patrick Mahomes. Detroit really struggled with the quarterback position last season, and they're not going to be able to stop Kansas City's offense. So if you have the salary, Patrick Mahomes is an incredible play. But to be honest, it's going to be hard to afford a high-end quarterback this week, because I was playing around with lineup builds, and I was even trying to get Kyle Allen, the quarterback, and he's pretty cheap still, and it's hard to fit lineups in with him too. So I can't imagine you're going to be able to play Patrick Mahomes in cash games, but in GPPs, I'm sure you can find a way. Lamar Jackson, he is what he is. Now, last week was a little disappointing. He had so his first 2 matchups were very easy versus Miami and Arizona. They just bleed points all around. He had 36 points, 33 points. Played Kansas City, who still doesn't have the best defense in the world, but obviously it's still a tougher matchup. He only scored 21 points, did not complete his completion percentage, again, like I said, was 51%, did not look too good, did not throw a touchdown, still got it done on the ground. I know last season versus Cleveland, he had a really good game on the ground. He would have had 3 rushing touchdowns, but one got called back. Cleveland's defense is improved. They have a ton of injuries, though, which I will say. So if they get some of those guys back, it'll be a downgrade to Jackson. But as of right now, he is in play. He can do it all. I can't imagine he's going to throw that bad again. So we'll have to see. But he is tough to afford. Tom Brady versus Buffalo. He's solid. It is what it is. If he had Antonio Brown, it'd be an upgrade, but they shouldn't miss a beat. He scored over 20 points each week so far, been over 300 yards twice. It doesn't matter how bad they're blowing somebody out. They'll keep throwing the ball. They do not care. So I do like Tom Brady, but I can't imagine this would be a back and forth game whatsoever. The Patriots defense has not allowed a touchdown yet this season. Deshaun Watson versus Carolina. I think this could be a more popular play. I mean, Deshaun Watson's got huge upside. I know versus Jacksonville, he had a tough outing, but it's Jacksonville. They got a great defense versus New Orleans, though, 31 points versus the Chargers, who have a solid defense, still put up 30 points. That's what Deshaun Watson does. He can do it on the ground. He can do it through the air. I mean, he's not like he runs the ball a ton like Lamar Jackson, but still, he's mobile. He can get rushing touchdowns. He does have 2 on the season. So I don't mind Deshaun Watson in GPPs. He's at home versus Carolina, who does struggle versus the quarterback position. Everyone liked Kyler Murray last week versus Carolina, so I can't imagine you wouldn't like Deshaun Watson. Jared Goff, I actually like Jared Goff a lot this week. So we know he's bad on the road. He didn't do too bad last night versus Cleveland, but he still had 2 turnovers, and he had a wide open touchdown to Cooper Kupp, so that was pretty much a gimme. Didn't look incredible, had some nice throws, but he's back at home where he plays much better, and he's going up against Tampa Bay, who just made Daniel Jones look like a Hall of Fame quarterback in his first NFL start on the road. So we have to like Jared Goff. He's got all the weapons. He's got a coach that can scheme everything open that he needs to. He can talk through him through the helmet until a certain amount of time. So Jared Goff should be, I wouldn't say incredible, but he should be pretty rock solid in this matchup. He's got Cooper Kupp to throw to, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. I mean, possibly Todd Gurley out of the backfield. They're not using him too much these days. But he should be fine at home versus Tampa Bay. Bleeds points to the quarterback position. Makes sense to me. Do like Jared Goff from the early looks. Phillip Rivers versus Miami. It's never fun to play Phillip Rivers, but he honestly hasn't been too bad this season. 27 points week 1 versus Indy. Week 2 versus Detroit, he did struggle with 11 points, but week 3 back to 23 points. He's solid. He's going up against Miami. Could the game get out of hand? Yes. Could they just end up running the ball a ton? Yeah, they could. But I think he gets your 2 touchdowns and at least 250 yards early on to the game. Probably most of that going to Keenan Allen. So I think Phillip Rivers is in play. Not my favorite play in the world, though, just because it's Phillip Rivers. And he doesn't offer you the huge ceiling. But GPPs, I wouldn't mind going with the Rivers, Williams, Allen, Eckler stack. I could see that happening. Russell Wilson coming off an absolute monster game versus New Orleans. They were in comeback mode, and he ended up scoring 44 points. Had 50 passing attempts, which you're not going to see a ton, but they were trailing this entire game. Had 2 throwing touchdowns and then 2 rushing touchdowns, 51 rushing yards, which we haven't seen in a while. So I think Russell Wilson's in play versus Arizona. We know they do not have a good defense. The problem is I don't see Seattle really in a position where they have to throw the ball a ton. Now, I will say Chris Carson is having a fumbling issue, so maybe they do rely on the passing game more, or just maybe Russell Wilson. But versus Arizona, I think he's going to be a fine play at 6,100. You're not going to see another 44-point game probably all the rest of the season. But if he's an efficient Russell Wilson, which he usually is, you're going to be happy. He's probably going to get you over 20 points this week. Kyler Murray, I actually like him a lot. I think he's in the lineup build I was doing earlier. He's just a safe play every week. He's kind of like Josh Allen. He had 25 points week 1, 19 points week 2, 19 points again week 3. He finally started running the ball last week versus Carolina's own defense. He had 8 rushing attempts for 69 yards. One of these days he's going to get a rushing touchdown. Again, he threw 43 pass attempts, and he's just throwing the ball a ton. They run a ton of plays. They play at a very high pace. Seattle's pass defense has not been good this season, so this is a matchup they can exploit with Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. He had 2 touchdowns through the air. And I'm telling you, if he starts getting rushing touchdowns, you're going to be very happy. Do like Kyler Murray. He offers you that safe floor with his rushing ability, and he also has a high ceiling as well. Matt Ryan, not too interested in Matt Ryan going against Tennessee. Baker Mayfield has looked absolutely terrible, unfortunately. Browns fan. You guys know that by now, but he's looked very, very bad. I don't understand what's going on. Play calling doesn't help, neither does the offensive line, but not someone I can play versus Baltimore. Jameis Winston versus the Rams. I don't love it. I know he went off versus the Giants, but it is the Giants. I don't really trust him versus the Rams. Josh Allen versus New England. No, thank you. Absolutely not. Matthew Stafford. So this is a high Vegas total, and if you think the Lions can stay in this game, he'd be interesting. Maybe you want to... think of it this way. Maybe you want to play the Kansas City offense and you leave off Mahomes, then you play it. You play Matthew Stafford running it back if you think he has to throw a ton. But he's not someone I really trust. He did have 31 points week 1 versus Arizona. But like I said, everyone scores points on Arizona versus the Chargers, 17 points versus Philly, which is an exploitable secondary. He only had 12 points. So that's someone I really trust. But he has a home, but still, he's not an exciting play. Cam Newton's out. Brissett, he's actually looked pretty good so far. He's 5,400. Hasn't been too bad. Not exciting though, but he's been a much better NFL quarterback than he has fantasy. 16 points, 18 points, 23 points. Did have over 300 yards though last week, threw 37 times. But honestly, prefer Marlon Mack in this game. And also T.Y. Hilton's hurt, so that's not good for him either. Not Jaron Jones, Derek Carr. Really, outside of Jacobs or Waller, I'm not too interested, or I guess Tyrell Williams. I mean, they're okay pieces. Darren Waller's the best play on this team, but Derek Carr he's not really getting the job done here. I know he's cheap, but he's cheap for a reason. Daniel Jones, look, he looked incredible last week. 39 fantasy points in his first career start on the road. It was versus Tampa, though, but got the win. Had a rushing touchdown as well. 4 attempts on the ground for 28 yards. 2 rushing touchdowns, I should say. One was on a read option. One was when the defense kind of dispersed, and he ran right up the middle when the seas parted. He had 336 yards on the air, completed 63% of his passes. Yeah, he looked good, but he's going against Washington. It's not the hardest matchup in the world. I wouldn't say it's the absolute best matchup in the world, but it's an exploitable matchup. He did lose Saquon Barkley, though, which, he is a threat through the air, so they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. I don't think they're going to trust Wayne Gallman too much. He had a good connection with Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram, so maybe you want to take a shot at 5,300. I'm not too interested this week, but I do think he can pay off his salary at 5,300. Kyle Allen, he was a guy I kind of regret not playing. Actually, I really regret not playing Kyle Allen because he probably would have let me get up to Christian McCaffrey in my main lineups. He was the top quarterback. He scored 25 points. He looked really, really good. Threw 261 yards, ended up getting 4 touchdowns, no picks, 144 passer rating. Looked pretty good. He raised his price up to 5,200, but I still think that's a pretty good value. Houston's pass defense is not that good. They just let Keenan Allen absolutely destroy them last week, which, Keenan Allen tends to do that to most teams. But still, they do not have a very good pass defense. I think Kyle Allen is in play. Probably a safe play this week at that price tag. Gardner Minshew, I know he's really awesome and all, but I don't really like him in DFS purposes this week. Marcus Mariota, never. Mitchell Trubisky, no way. Kirk Cousins versus Chicago, not happening. They don't throw the ball enough at all for me to consider him. Case Keenum versus the Giants. I understand if you want to play someone versus the Giants. They just have a terrible defense in all aspects. But do you really want to put all your money in Case Keenum? And GPP's fine. I'm kind of thinking like single entries and cash games. But large field GPPs, maybe you take a shot with him and Terry McLaurin. But not too interested in that. Dwayne Haskins not a starter. Eli Manning's not either. Joe Flacco, not versus Jacksonville. Not going to mess with any of the Miami quarterbacks for obvious reasons, and that's going to be it for the starting quarterbacks. At the running back position, we have... I hope the video is recording. Okay, it's still recording. Christian McCaffrey versus Houston. Not the best matchup in the world, but it's Christian McCaffrey. He can do it all. Like I said, he was having a rough start to the week last week, but it only takes one play for this guy. He had a 76-yard touchdown. Ended up getting 30 fantasy points. He's involved through the air. Has not been involved as much as we'd like him to be, which is a little concerning. It's 8,800, but he's an elite running back, possibly the best fantasy running back. I wouldn't say he's the best NFL running back, but he's right up there with Kamara and Saquon Barkley. I guess it's windy out. Sorry if that's loud. But he's definitely an elite fantasy running back. I shouldn't have to say that, but CMC is in play. I just don't like the price tag, and there's some other cheaper guys I like better. Saquon Barkley is not playing. Dalvin Cook, his price is coming up. 8,300. He gets a tough test versus Chicago. He's kind of had soft matchups to start the season versus, I shouldn't say soft. Green Bay's a little tough, but, no, they kind of got beat up by Phillip Lindsay. I should say Green Bay's much better pass defense. He has had 3 soft matchups versus Atlanta, Green Bay, and Oakland. 29 points, 31 points, 27 points. The guy is a stud, and he's very efficient. It's not like he's some plotter that gets there on volume. He just does it all. He is good. He can break the long play. He had 21 attempts week 1, 20 week 2, 16 week 3. He's involved in the passing game, 5 targets week 3, then 3 targets week 2, 2 targets week 1. Gets the ball in the passing game. He's game script proof. I think Minnesota's going to beat the Bears. But I will say, it's a tough matchup versus Chicago. It's a really tough matchup, so he's someone I'm going to not be playing this week. Unfortunately, I do love Dalvin Cook. Hopefully his price comes down if he has a bad game this week, then we can play him again next week. Well, I actually don't know exactly who he's playing next week, but I have to imagine it's an easier matchup than the Bears. So not going to be playing Dalvin Cook this week, unfortunately. I've been playing him a lot this year, but gonna have to pass. You have to know when to jump off the train. Austin Eckler, I would not be surprised if he comes in as my, holy crap, it's windy out here. But man, okay. Anyway, but Austin Eckler, I would not be surprised if he comes in as my top 3 projected running back this week. He's 8K though. His price has come way up. It was 5,500 week 1, 6,100 week 2, 7,200 week 3. Now we're all the way up at 8K, but he's going up against Miami, who just bleeds points to every single position. They let Tony Pollard run wild. They let Zeke run wild. He should have no problem versus Miami. He's heavily involved through the air. Like I said, he was not very good on the ground last week. Only 36 yards on 9 attempts, but it does not matter because he had 7 targets through the air, caught all 7 balls for 45 yards, which is not incredible, but still, it's a safe floor for PPR scoring formats, which is what DraftKings is. So he's one of the safest plays this week, and he's got a huge ceiling because most likely he's going to find the end zone, and you're going to be very happy, and you're probably looking at a 20 to 30 point day out of Austin Eckler. I mean, I guess there's a concern that Justin Jackson can see more run if they do get a good lead, but you can only project what he's going to do, or what he's going to do when he's on the field, and I think he's going to do just fine. Todd Gurley versus Tampa, it's not an enticing matchup. I was thinking of last season. We love running backs versus Tampa Bay, but they've been pretty stingy versus the run this year, so, and Todd Gurley, I mean, he's just not someone I'm going to be interested in pretty much all year. There's just no way. He's kind of overpriced for what he's done this season. I know he's on a good offense, but 11 points, 15 points, 4 points, it's not going to get it done for me at 7K. I just don't trust him. I don't trust his knees. He's not going to get the volume I want. And there's guys that are cheaper than him that are going to get more volume and better matchups. David Johnson, Seattle's not a very good defense anymore. They just got killed by Alvin Kamara. I mean, it's Alvin Kamara, though. He's arguably one of the best running backs in the NFL. Well, not one of the best. He's arguably the best running back in the NFL. I actually tend to think he might be the best. He's just, I don't know, he's like a slippery fish. I don't know, you just can't tackle the guy. David Johnson, not been great this year. I will say that. He's involved through the air, though. He had 9 targets last week. Ended up getting a receiving touchdown. Not been great on the ground, though, but he is a safe floor at 6,800 versus Seattle, who just, not a very good defense anymore. He is at home, so that's nice for him. But I do have more interest in Kyler Murray, but it's not like you can't play the two together because of his involvement in the passing game. Mark Ingram absolutely went nuts last week versus KC. Had 3 touchdowns, 38 points, over 100 yards. Versus Cleveland, not too interested, I gotta say. Maybe I'm being biased because I'm a Browns fan, but just not too interested in Mark Ingram this week. There's some other guys that are cheaper that I like better. Nick Chubb versus Baltimore, not too interested in that. See, I'm not being biased because I don't like Nick Chubb either. I mean, he's a safe play. I mean, there's a good chance he finds himself into the end zone. He's going to get about 20 touches each week. He needs to see more. No, he doesn't. He did. He finally saw more work in the passing game. He had 7 targets for 4 catches. The coach said they wanted to get him involved more in third down type situations, and they did, which is good because he's a capable pass catcher. So he offers you a safe floor, but I don't think the ceiling's too high versus Baltimore. Derrick Henry, it's a great matchup versus Atlanta, but I honestly just don't like the guy. But he gets volume, and he tends to find the end zone. He has 4 touchdowns for 3 weeks. He's been good ever since that Thursday night Jacksonville game. He is in play, but he just isn't too involved through the air, and I really like my running backs to at least be involved through the air a little bit. And he does have 3 targets, 2 targets, 2 targets. This is not the most exciting play, but Atlanta does suck versus the running back position, and he's been running the ball, I wouldn't say fantastic, but he gets enough volume for it to pay off. Marlon Mack, I'm liking him a lot. 6,100. I know he kind of just said I like guys that are involved through the passing game, which he isn't too much. He's still seen 3 targets the past 2 weeks. He was fine last week. You have to think he's at least going to be a little bit healthier coming into this week, which I do like. Oakland just got, I wouldn't say absolutely killed by Dalvin Cook, but he had a pretty good game versus them. And Marlon Mack, he's going to see about 20 touches versus an Oakland run defense, and I think that is going to be pretty good value, 6,100. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but don't hate it. Fournette, I don't like Fournette. I don't think he's very good. I mean, you guys watched the Thursday night game. He was, up until the fourth quarter, he had, -9 yards, and then he broke off a 69-yard run and didn't even finish the game with 69 yards. That's pretty bad. I mean, he's not going to break off a 70-yard run every week, so I just don't trust Fournette. Chris Carson, this would be one of my favorite plays of the week. The thing is, he's got a fumbling problem. He has, 4 fumbles through 3 weeks so far? I don't know. 3 fumbles. Yes, 3 fumbles through 3 weeks. That is not good. I mean, there's a solid chance he is not the full-time starter at some point here soon. Running backs cannot give the ball up, and coaches do not have tolerance for that. And I mean, there's bench risk here if you're playing Chris Carson. I mean, there's a chance he gets benched in this game. You don't see him anymore. Yeah. I love the matchup. Arizona gets killed on the ground. They gave up the most rushing yards per game last season, near the most points. Were almost dead last in DVOA versus the run. I mean, I like Chris Carson. He's got talent. He's going to be involved through the air more so than last week. He did have 25 points week 1 versus Cincy, which is a soft matchup. And that's what... If he doesn't fumble, I could see him having a game like that. He had 10 points versus Pittsburgh, was not very good. But we're getting a good matchup versus Arizona. You can run the ball on them a lot. Seattle wants to run the ball. Last week they really couldn't because they were down so much, so you saw a lot of the backup pass-catching running back. I think... So let's just say Chris Carson's the full-time starter of this game. I think he's a fantastic play at 5,700, so that's what we're going to go with. But just know there's obvious risk here with him being benched for fumbling. LaShawn McCoy, I mean, he's been good. Oh, I shouldn't say he's been great. I mean, he was good last week, but that's the one I really want to play in DFS this week. Sony Michel, he's been terrible this season. I mean, he scored a couple times, but other than that, if he doesn't score, you're dead. Kerryon Johnson, I actually like Kerryon a lot this week going up against KC. They struggle versus the running back position. They just got absolutely shredded by Mark Ingram. And he saw a ton of work last week. He got 20 attempts on a terrible 36 yards, which was only 1.8 yards per carry, which is absolutely awful. He did get into the end zone on the goal line, though. It took him a couple tries, but he did. He had one target for 7 yards. So it's a high Vegas total. They don't have C.J. Anderson anymore to vulture goal line carries, which is great. I like Kerryon Johnson. He should be heavily involved. If he gets you over 20 touches versus the KC defense, I think he is going to pay off at 5,400. He's got upside. If they get him involved through the air more, he'll be a lot happier, which he's capable of doing that. So I do think Kerryon is a pretty good play this week as of right now. Damian Williams, no. Dave Montgomery's got a tough matchup versus Minnesota. I like the guy. I like the talent, but versus Minnesota, not really. Philip Lindsay, so funny story. He was actually popping up as the number 1 value play in my model last week on the spreadsheet, and I was like, what? So I actually manually adjusted it, and I wish I didn't because I could be boasting about that right now, but I manually adjusted it, so I can't take credit for that, but it ended up popping up the number 1 value in my model, and I wish I listened to it. He ended up doing very well, 29 points at only 4,300. Probably should have listened, but is what it is. I'm not too interested in him this week, though, versus Jacksonville. Josh Jacobs, I just got a sleeper notification that they want to get him more targets, which they need to. He's the best running back on the team. Get the guy more targets. I will say, though, he came into the week last week. He was sick. He lost 10 pounds, what he posted on Instagram. It is concerning, though, that he keeps posting stories that he does not care about fantasy points because I care about fantasy points. So I guess we're not on the same page there. But I think he's a talented guy. I mean, I know, even though he might not care about fantasy points, if he plays like he should with his talent, he's going to accumulate fantasy points. It's not like a really super easy matchup versus Indy, but it's not like a tough matchup. If Oakland can keep this game close, he's going to see a ton of work. Maybe you could see more of 20 touches like we did week 1, and we saw what he did with 20 touches. He got you 24 points. So I do like Josh Jacobs, and if he's involved through the air more, even more to him at 5,100. So I got some slight interest in Josh Jacobs. Devontae Freeman looked a little bit better last week, but still really can't trust him at this point. James White missed last week because of the wife was giving birth, but he's what he is. He's a PPR guy. If he's going to get a ton of checkdowns. If he finds the end zone, you're going to be pretty happy. Decently safe for 13 points, 11 points. Who's next? Royce Freeman. I'm just not really interested in Royce Freeman or Philip Lindsay. I was going to say Damian Williams. I didn't make sure it's Darrell Williams. So this was a funny story last week. There was a beat reporter that said he was going to be the starter, which threw everyone off McCoy. McCoy ended up having the better game, which everyone was a little upset at the guy. But Williams didn't do that bad, though. He had 9 attempts, 62 yards, had 5 targets, caught all 5 of them, 47 yards, ended up getting 15 Draftkings points. At 3K, you were probably pretty happy with that. So not interested this week, though, especially if Damian Williams is back. Wayne Gallman, Saquon Barkley's gone. He's not an exciting play. I mean, Washington's not a super tough matchup. He's going to see some volume, but he's not very talented. If he falls into the end zone, he'll pay off salary, but that's just about it. Tariq Cohen, not really a Tariq Cohen guy. Chris Thompson. I honestly don't see the Washington Redskins trailing too much, which was when they used Chris Thompson. They should be able to hang in this game with New York, and I could see more of an Adrian Peterson game. Frank Gore, depends on Singletary's status, but versus New England, not really interested. Rex Burkhead, he's been pretty solid. I mean, last week he had a very good game. He had 18 points last week, 11 carries, 47 yards, 7 targets, 6 receptions. That was without James White, though, I will say that. But week 1 with James White, he still scored 13 points. In week 2, he had 8 points. He's got somewhat of a floor. He's got upside. The Patriots love him. I mean, he's white, so Patriots loved all the white guys. But, yeah, I don't mind Rex Burkhead. Not in love with it, though, by any means. Malcolm Brown, no. Ronald Jones, no. Thompson, no. Hyde, no. Peterson, maybe, versus the Giants, because they can keep this game close. They do not have a good run defense or pass defense. He's only 4,300. If he falls into the end zone, you'll be somewhat happy. Week 2 versus Dallas, 10 attempts, 25 yards. Got into the end zone, though, so he got 11 points. But outside of that, not really an exciting play. After that, I am not interested in any of these guys outside of any injuries that may pop up throughout the week. At the wide receiver position, Julio Jones, he is what he is. He's a monster. He's matchup proof. I don't care who he's going against. He's in play. But Tennessee, not the best matchup in the world. DeAndre Hopkins, again, he's matchup proof. If I like Deshaun Watson, I have to like Hopkins. I think they're more of an interesting GPP stack. Keenan Allen, though, he is the lock of the week. Fit him in. I don't care what you do. Fit him in all your lineups, no matter what. I know they might blow them out, but I think that's on after Keenan Allen probably catches 1 or 2 touchdowns and gets over 100 yards. The guy is a stud. Coming into the week, I haven't updated my sheets. I don't know the exact number after this week, but coming into the week, he had a 91% weighted opportunity share. That is massive, over a 50% market share. His target share is through the roof as well. He is the safest play this week, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, guys like McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook, they're safe. But the matchup here and his talent and his opportunity is bar none. He is my top play of the slate. I'm going to assume he is going to be my top projected wide receiver on the slate. He was last week, so I have no reason why he wouldn't be this week. He had 10 targets week 1, 15 targets week 2, 17 targets last week, 13 receptions, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns. He even got a rushing attempt. He had 46 points. You had to have him pretty much to catch. I guess you even had to have him. He was like 32% owned, but yeah, he is going to eat up this Miami defense. I don't know who is going to stop him. I don't care if he sees any Xavier Howard. He's going to win that battle. If he happens to see any Eric Rowe, you're going to be just drooling. He's going to dominate this matchup. Love Keenan Allen here. Get him in your lineups. First thing I did when I was looking at Draftkings this week, I actually went straight to the wide receiver position and looked up Keenan Allen's price because I knew they were playing Miami. I honestly thought it might say 8K, but 7,600, I'll take that all day. Odell versus Baltimore. Get the guy the ball, man. He only had 6 receptions last week, 56 yards. He didn't look his way into the end zone. I understand. Versus Baltimore, can't trust it, but it is Odell. He can always take the top off of defense. Would not surprise me if he went out and balled out, especially after last week. You gotta get the guy the ball. He's more of a GPP play only. Mike Evans, he finally broke out. That buy low window is completely gone in season-long league. I was actually trying to trade for like 3 hours with one of my friends. He has Mike Evans. He's not like too heavy into fantasy football, so I knew I could buy low on the guy, but I wasn't willing to give up. He wanted 2 of my running backs, so I couldn't pull the trigger, but I wish I honestly did because there's no chance I'm getting Mike Evans now. But he balled out last week versus the New York Giants, had 3 touchdowns, 190 yards on 15 targets, 8 receptions, had 48 Draftkings points. If you had him in your lineup, you were happy. He was about 7% owned in my contest. So Mike Evans balled out versus the Rams, though. Not too interested this week. It's a much tougher matchup. And that offensive line is going to struggle containing Aaron Donald. Tyreek Hill's not playing. Sammy Watkins. I like all of Mahomes' weapons. I'm not in love with Sammy Watkins this week, but one of those guys is always going to ball out. He's had double-digit points in each week. Had seen at least 8 targets each week, but since that week 1 matchup, if you didn't have that just absolutely boom of a week 1, we would not be that interested in Sammy Watkins this week, and I'm not too interested in him this week. Adam Thielen versus Chicago, probably going to pass there. Julian Edelman's a little banged up, but he should be fine. I believe they said he's good to go. Cooper Kupp, though, I love Cooper Kupp this week. I would say he's right up there with Keenan Allen as being one of my favorite plays of the week. I'd really try to get him in your lineup. He was great last week versus Cleveland. I will say, though, he had a wide-open touchdown on a busted coverage near the goal line, but still, he had 36 DraftKings points, saw 12 targets, 11 catches, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's broke the 100-yard mark each week. He's one of my favorite plays. I love Cooper Kupp. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. He's got great hands. He has great route running ability. It's hard words to say in a row. And Sean McVay knows how to get the guy open, and he's Goff's guy. Goff looks to him. I love Cooper Kupp this week. I think he's in the lineup I built earlier. Yes, he is. So I definitely like Cooper Kupp. I think he's a very safe play, and he's got a high ceiling as well, which is what I love for cash games. T.Y. Hilton, I mean, he's injured. I can't really see myself playing him. Tweaked his quad, so just not really interested in T.Y. Hilton. He's been fine, though, this season. Tyler Lockett, he just continues to be very consistent and very good. Last week, he had one of those boom games, 35 DraftKings points. Russell Wilson balled out. He had 14 targets last week, 12 targets last week before that, 150 yards and a touchdown. I do have some interest in Russell Wilson. If you're playing Russell Wilson, I think you gotta pair him up with some Tyler Lockett because that's his number one guy. Brandon Cooks, I love all the Rams receivers. I'm not gonna go too in depth on these guys, but I think they're all in play. But Cooper Kupp is my favorite one by far. Chris Godwin did not have a great week last week, and versus the Rams, that's not too interested. Josh Gordon, he's fine. I'm not in love with the play. Buffalo has a somewhat pretty decent pass defense. He did score 14 points last week. He had the 3 points versus Miami. That was when Antonio Brown was there. And then McBunny had 16 points. You're probably gonna get double-digit points out of Josh Gordon, but not the safest floor in the world. Kenny Golladay versus the Chiefs. If you think that game's back and forth, there's interest there. Marquise Brown versus Cleveland. If they're missing their whole secondary again, you can fire him up. I wouldn't mind that. Did not have a great week last week though. Sterling Shepard. I like Sterling Shepard quite a bit. He had a great connection with Daniel Jones. I know it was versus Tampa, but he gets another good matchup versus Washington. Got 100 yards last week, 9 targets, 7 catches, 30 DraftKings points. He's one of my, I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite plays, but he's definitely on the high list for me. Do you like Sterling Shepard? Tyler Williams, not really interested in him. He's the number one wide receiver for that team. He's had double-digit points each week. DJ Moore, if you're playing Kyle Allen, don't mind the little stack there, but outside of that, not too interested in DJ Moore. Larry Fitzgerald, he did not have a great week last week, but he still got 14 points, which is just fine. He got into the end zone. Only had 36 yards, though, but still saw 7 targets. Wasn't really used down the field much, but he is what he is. He's a very solid play each week. Allen Robinson, not too interested versus Minnesota. Diggs has been awful this season. No D.D. Westbrook for me. Marvin Jones, pretty much the same thing as Kenny Golladay. Demarcus Robinson, he's looking pretty good. 38 points week 2, 13 points week 3. He had a really sick one-handed catch. I like Patrick Mahomes. I like all his pass catchers. John Brown, not versus New England. Oh, I already passed him, but Jarvis Landry, not too interested. Mecole Hardman, he's Tyreek Hill 2.0. He is very, very good. He's very fast, so definitely like Hardman. He's pretty much Tyreek Hill, but a cheaper price tag with less targets. But I definitely like him. He's always good for that boom play. Christian Kirk, he was heavily involved last week. It wasn't a huge yardage total, but he still saw 12 targets, 59 yards, not getting to the end zone. But he's great for PPR scoring. He got 15 points on only 59 yards, so you got to like that. I like Kyler Murray, so I have to like his weapons. So Christian Kirk is definitely on a high list for me, or a short list, I should say. Sorry if you guys hear that fire truck. DJ Chark, he's been good, but versus Denver, I wouldn't say it's the worst matchup in the world, but I don't hate it. Calvin Ridley, not too interested in Calvin Ridley. And then after these guys, Emmanuel Sanders. I'm really mad at Emmanuel Sanders, not playing him this week. Not just because I'm mad at him, but not the best matchup versus Jacksonville. Mike Williams, he's more of a GPP play. Someone on Twitter mentioned him, and I completely agree with you. He is fine for GPPs at 4,800. If the defense is going to try to focus on Keenan Allen, I don't think it's going to stop him at all. But that's going to make Mike Williams get some soft coverage, and he's a big play guy. So don't hate Mike Williams. He's going to be lower owned than Keenan Allen. After that, Metcalf's okay. But the rest of these guys not too interested. Curtis Samuel. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a couple guys I like. So Terry McLaurin, I want to talk about him. I like him a lot. He actually made the lineup build. He's been good his first 2 weeks. Philly, 26 points. Dallas, 17 points. He's on the field 90% of the time so far through 2 weeks. He's got a tough matchup tonight versus Chicago, so I wouldn't expect too big of things out of him, but still going against this Giants secondary. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers just destroyed them. He's the number one receiver on the team. I do like Terry McLaurin. He should be heavily involved, and he's pretty cheap. He's got talent, too. And then after that, I think I'm going to pass on the rest of these guys. No one is really interesting. There might be just a cheap guy I'm missing, and like I said, these are just the early thoughts. I'll do my heavy research getting into tomorrow, get the core plays video out at some point. But other than that, I know Bird's really cheap. He's on the field a ton for Arizona, but he only got 2 points last week. Still saw 4 targets, but he's not exciting. So outside of that, yeah, gonna have to pass. For the tight end position, my laptop's about to die, so I'm gonna have to rapid fire this. But Travis Kelce, Detroit struggles with the tight end position. Travis Kelce is one of the safest plays each week. He didn't really blow up or anything last week, but he still got you 15 points, which it's Travis Kelce. He's got a solid floor. Evan Ingram, he broke the slate wide open last week with that 75-yard touchdown. He's been solid so far this season, and now he's got Danny Dimes thrown to him, so you have to think that's an upgrade. Saquon Barkley's out, so increased target share. Do like Evan Ingram. Darren Waller has been a beast this season. 14 points, 12 points, 30 points. Look how cheap he was. That is no longer the case. He's 5,200. It's a great matchup versus Indy, though, who sucks versus the tight end position. They gave up the most yards per game last season and pretty much the most points per game. So do like Darren Waller. Mark Andrews versus Cleveland. I mean, he's been great. Not last week, though, but he's definitely got the upside. Delaney Walker, not too interested. Austin Hooper, he's been pretty good. I thought he was a decent value play last week. I wasn't too high on him, though, so I'm not going to take credit for that or anything, but he's been good. Greg Olsen, I like a lot, actually, at 4,200. He should be, I mean, I expect him to have some ownership. His price has come up a little bit, but he looked just fine with Kyle Allen. Didn't lose a beat without Cam Newton. 25 points, scored 2 touchdowns versus Arizona, who just absolutely sucks versus tight end positions. I will say that. But Houston, over the last season, they have struggled versus tight end position a lot. And he's going to see some targets. He's a safe play this week. I think he gets into the end zone. No one else really interesting here outside of Will Dissly. Yeah, he's been fine. I was going to say, if you guys listen to the Fantasy Footballers podcast, which I just love that podcast. It's very entertaining. Big Montana, the music was in my head with him. But he's been great. 22 points, 18 points. He honestly hasn't really even been touchdown dependent as well. He had 5 targets week 2, 50 yards. Week 3, 7 targets, 62 yards. They were trailing a lot, though, I will say that. But still found the end zone, 18 points versus Arizona. And like I said, Arizona has been bleeding points to the tight end position. So I do think Will Dissly is a fine play at 3,600. Then outside of that, TJ Hawkinson, he's been trash. But he did have a touchdown called back. But not too interested in any of these guys. And then at the defense, obviously top play is going to be the Chargers. Patriots are fine too. They have not given up a touchdown yet this season. Jacksonville versus Denver, don't have a potent offense. And then for the rest of the guys, I will just get into it in the next video. I got 4% on my battery and I want to make this lineup really quick, so let's get it in now. So at the quarterback position, I am plugging in Kyler Murray as of right now. Like the safe floor we get, like the matchup versus Seattle. Arizona plays at a fast pace, so I do like Kyler Murray quite a bit. At the running back position, I'd love to fit in some studs, but just the way this build was, I went with some more mid-range running backs. So we got Marlon Mack. He's going to see plenty of touches as a soft matchup. Like the safety there, and he does have some upside. Then I'm taking a little bit of a risk on Kerryon Johnson at 5,400. And again, guys, this is just a way too early look at a Week 4 lineup. But if he's going to see 20 touches versus Kansas City, it should be a fast-paced game. I shouldn't say incredibly fast paced, but there should be some scoring. They're going to have to play catch up. Hopefully he's on the field for that, gets some targets. I think Kerryon Johnson's a fine play, 5,400. He's got talent. Wide receiver, Keenan Allen, like I said, lock of the week. I love Keenan Allen this week. Then Cooper Kupp at 6,500. Again, him and Keenan Allen are my 2 favorite wide receiver plays of the week. Oh, whoa. Laptop's lagging. I think it's about to die on me. And then we got Scary Terry at 4,500, the wide receiver slot. If I can find it. And then we got Greg. Sorry if it's lagging, guys. I'm at 3%. Hopefully we make it through this video. Greg Olsen at 4,200. And then my defense is going to be the Chargers defense, because fortunately I was able to afford them. I think they're the safest defense of the week. I know they're not playing at home, but we'll live. And then for the final flex spot, you can play Sterling Shepard, you can play Chris Carson. So I either like Chris Carson here, but he does have some concerns. So I also like Sterling Shepard at 5,800. But I tend to like to play 3 running backs. I actually haven't done that yet this season, which is really against what I usually do. But Sterling Shepard or Chris Carson is both fine in that flex spot there. So I'm sorry, this thing is lagging like crazy because I have 2% battery left. Or Chris Carson. So anyway guys, that's going to be it for the video. Remember to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPennell16, and I'll see you guys in the next video.